I was sitting in that safe, peaceful lobby like a good mom, smiling through the nerves, until one sentence in that contract hit me. This wasn't admission paperwork. It was permission to take over my life. This story is inspired by real-life submissions. Names and identifying details have been changed. I should have known something was wrong when my son wouldn't look me in the eye. Matthew pulled into the parking lot of Serenity Gardens Assisted Living like we were just running errands. Ashley sat in the back seat, scrolling through her phone, occasionally glancing up to smile at me, that tight, practiced smile I'd seen her use on telemarketers. "You're going to love it here, Mom," Matthew said, his voice dripping with that false cheerfulness people use when they're lying to children, or to old women they think won't notice. I hadn't asked to come here. I hadn't asked to go anywhere. The building looked nice enough. Cream-colored siding, flower beds out front, a big wooden sign with gold lettering. But there was something off about the way Matthew hurried around to open my door. The way Ashley already had her arm ready to loop through mine like I couldn't walk 15 feet on my own. "We just want you to see the place," he said. "Get a feel for it." Inside, the receptionist greeted us like we were expected, not like visitors, like we were keeping an appointment I didn't know I'd made. "Mrs. Patterson, so glad you could make it." She was young, blonde, wearing scrubs covered in cartoon cats. Her name tag said Brittany. "We have all your paperwork ready." My paperwork? I looked at Matthew. He was already nodding, already moving toward the desk. "Great. We really appreciate you fitting us in." "Wait," I said. My voice came out smaller than I wanted. "What paperwork?" Ashley squeezed my arm. "It's just standard stuff, Mom. Intake forms. Everyone has to fill them out when they tour." But this wasn't a tour. Tours don't come with stacks of papers already printed with your name on them. Tours don't come with a notary sitting in the corner, setting up her stamp like she's about to witness something official. Brittany spread the documents across the counter. There had to be 20 pages, maybe more. Admissions agreements, liability waivers, medical authorizations. My eyes couldn't focus on the tiny print fast enough. "If you could just initial here, here, and here," Brittany said, sliding the papers toward me. "And we'll need your signature at the bottom of each section." "She'll need a few minutes to read through everything," I said, reaching for the first page. "Oh, of course." Brittany smiled, though most families find it easier to just go through it together. "Your son already reviewed everything with our director last week." Last week. My stomach dropped. Why was my son reviewing contracts for a place I'd never agreed to visit? Matthew leaned in close. "Mom, you're holding up the process." "They have other appointments." I picked up the first document. Residency agreement for long-term care placement. The words blurred together. Long-term? I flipped to the second page, then the third, my hands starting to shake. Terms, conditions, monthly fees. And then, buried in paragraph 7 of page 4, a line that made my blood run cold. "Resident hereby grants designated family representative full access to financial accounts for the purpose of care-related expenses and authorizes mail forwarding to family representative's address of record." I read it again and again. Financial access. Mail forwarding. "This isn't just admission paperwork," I said, my voice cracking. This says you get access to my bank accounts." Ashley laughed, light and dismissive. "Mom, that's standard for elderly residents. You won't have to worry about bills anymore. We'll handle everything. I'm handling everything fine right now." "Are you?" Matthew's tone sharpened. "Because last month you forgot to pay the HOA fee." "I didn't forget. I paid it late. Once. And the water bill was a mix-up with the bank." Heat rushed to my face. "I'm 68, Matthew. I'm not senile." Brittany's smile flickered. The notary in the corner shifted in her chair, suddenly very interested in organizing her stamp and seal. Ashley touched my shoulder. her voice dropping to that syrupy tone people use when they're trying to soothe someone they think is confused. No one's saying you're senile. We just want you somewhere safe, somewhere you'll be taken care of. I looked down at the papers again. There was an attachment clipped to the back bank routing forms, pre-filled with my account information. Information I definitely hadn't provided. How did they get this? A woman emerged from the hallway, older than Brittany, maybe 45, wearing business casual instead of scrubs. Her name tag read Elizabeth Monroe, Resident Services Coordinator. She had the look of someone who'd seen too many families rush their parents through paperwork. Too many signatures that came with regrets. She glanced at the stack of documents, then at me, then at Matthew and Ashley, standing over me like sentries. "Mrs. Patterson," Elizabeth said carefully, "do you understand everything you're being asked to sign today?" "She's fine," Matthew cut in. "We went over it at home." "Did you?" Elizabeth's eyes stayed on me. "Because these documents include financial power of attorney provisions. That's not something most facilities require for a simple residency agreement." The room went very quiet. Brittany's smile vanished. Matthew's jaw tightened. Ashley's grip on my shoulder turned to stone. "We were told this was standard," Matthew said. "For memory care units, perhaps." Elizabeth picked up the contract, flipping through it with the practiced eye of someone who knew exactly what she was looking for. "But your mother isn't applying for memory care, is she?" I wanted to hug this woman. Instead, I found my voice. "No, I'm not." Elizabeth set the papers down and looked directly at Matthew. "Then I'm going to need to ask you and your wife to step into the waiting area while I speak with your mother privately. It's policy." "That's not necessary. It's policy," Elizabeth repeated, her voice harder now. Ashley pulled Matthew toward the waiting room, whispering furiously. I watched them go, my heart hammering in my chest. Elizabeth waited until they were out of earshot. Then she leaned across the counter and lowered her voice. "Mrs. Patterson, this doesn't look standard to me. And if you're feeling pressured to sign something you don't understand, you have every right to say no." My throat felt tight. "I don't even know what half of this says." "Then don't sign it." She pulled out her phone, snapped photos of several pages, then tucked a copy of the full contract into a folder. "Take this. Have someone you trust look at it. A lawyer? Maybe. I don't have a lawyer." She pulled a business card from her desk drawer and slipped it into the folder. "This is an attorney who specializes in elder law. He's good. He's honest. And he'll tell you if something's wrong here." I took the folder with trembling hands. "The notary?" I whispered. "She's still here." Elizabeth glanced toward the corner where the woman sat, studiously ignoring us. "She won't notarize anything without your clear consent. I'll make sure of that." I stood up, clutching the folder to my chest. My legs felt weak. My son was in the waiting room, probably furious. My daughter-in-law was probably already texting someone about how difficult I was being. But I wasn't signing anything today. I walked past Matthew and Ashley without a word. Matthew jumped up, following me out the door. "Mom, wait, what are you doing?" "I'm going home." "You didn't even look at the rooms." "We put down a deposit. I didn't ask you to do that." I made it to the car before my hands started shaking too hard to hold the folder. I sat in the passenger seat while Matthew and Ashley argued behind me in heated whispers. Through the glass doors, I could see Elizabeth watching us, her phone in her hand like she was ready to call someone if this went sideways. My phone was in my purse. The business card Elizabeth gave me was clipped to the front of the folder. William Chun, elder law attorney. I dialed before I could talk myself out of it. He answered on the second ring. "William Chun." "Mr. Chun, my name is Amelia Patterson, and I think my son is trying to steal my life." William Chun's voice was calm, steady, like he'd heard this exact story 100 times before. Maybe he had. "Mrs. Patterson, I need you to listen carefully. Do not sign anything. Not today, not tomorrow. Do you have the documents with you?" I clutched the folder tighter. Yes. The woman at the facility, Elizabeth, she gave me copies. Good. That was smart of her. I could hear him typing. I need you to photograph every single page, front and back. Can you do that? My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. Matthew was pacing outside the car, talking rapidly to Ashley. Every few seconds he'd glance at me through the window, his face tight with frustration. Yes, I think so. Use your phone camera. Make sure the text is clear. When you're done, email them to me. The address is on my card. I fumbled with my phone, nearly dropping it twice. The first page came out blurry. I tried again. Better. My hands steadied as I worked through the stack, page after page of dense legal text that I'd almost signed without reading. When I got to page 7, I stopped. There was an attachment I hadn't noticed before. A change of address form. Pre-filled. Not with the assisted living facility's address. With Matthew and Ashley's address across town. Mr. Chun, there's something else here. What is it? A postal service form for forwarding my mail. My voice cracked. To my son's house? The typing stopped. That's what I was afraid of, Mrs. Patterson. This isn't just about the facility. They're trying to establish financial control. Once they have access to your accounts and your mail, they can intercept bank statements, credit card bills, insurance, documents, anything. My stomach turned. Why would Matthew right now? The why doesn't matter. What matters is protecting yourself. His voice was firm but kind. Is there a bank near you? I looked around the parking lot. Across the street, maybe 2 blocks down, I could see the blue and white sign of First National. Yes. Walking distance. Go there. Right now. Tell them you need to put a freeze on any new authorized users on your accounts. Ask them to check if anyone has requested access recently. What if there's nothing? What if I'm overreacting? Then you'll know. And we'll figure out next steps. But Mrs. Patterson, in my experience, when someone rushes you to sign papers you don't understand, there's always a reason. Matthew tapped on the window. I flinched. He gestured for me to roll it down. I cracked it an inch. Mom, we need to talk about this. You're being irrational. I'm going to the bank. His expression hardened. Why? Because I want to. I started the engine. My hands weren't shaking anymore. I'll call you later. Mom, the deposit is due today. We're going to lose the spot. I rolled up the window and pulled out of the parking space. In the rearview mirror, I watched Ashley grab Matthew's arm, pulling him back. They were arguing. Good. Let them argue. The bank was quiet, just a few customers at the teller windows. I went straight to the desk marked Customer Service, where a young man with wire-rimmed glasses looked up with a practiced smile. His nameplate said Derek Henderson, branch manager. How can I help you today? I set the folder on his desk. I need to check if anyone has requested access to my accounts. Something flickered across his face. Recognition, maybe? Or concern, of course. Let me pull up your profile. He typed for a moment, his eyes scanning the screen. Then he stopped. Mrs. Patterson, when did you last check your account activity online? I don't use the online banking much. Maybe a month ago. He turned the monitor toward me. There was a request submitted 4 days ago to add an authorized representative to your checking and savings accounts. The application is currently pending verification. The room tilted. Who requested it? The name on the application is Matthew Patterson, listed as your son. The request cited, he scrolled down, concerns about cognitive decline and need for family oversight. Cognitive decline. My son told my bank I was losing my mind. Is the request approved? Not yet. We require in-person verification for changes like this. But Mrs. Patterson, I have to ask, did you authorize this request? No. Derek's jaw tightened. Then I'm flagging this immediately as potential elder financial abuse. We take these situations very seriously. He pulled out a form, started writing. I'm placing a hold on all account changes pending investigation. and I'm printing you a copy of the request and our internal notes." The printer hummed to life. He handed me 3 pages, still warm. There it was. Matthew's signature. A box checked next to memory impairment. A box checked next to requires assistance with financial decisions. I'd paid my bills on time for 47 years. I'd managed my late husband's estate. I'd put both my sons through college without a single late payment. And now my oldest son was telling strangers I couldn't handle a checkbook. "What do I do now?" I whispered. Derek slid his business card across the desk. "You document everything. Keep those papers safe. And if you need a letter from the bank confirming your account status and this fraudulent request, I'll write it myself." I took the card, added it to the growing stack in my folder. The paper trail was getting thicker. My phone buzzed. A text from Matthew. "Mom, we need to talk. The facility just called. They need an answer by 5 p.m. or they're releasing the room." I checked the time. 2:47 p.m. Another text. "Ashley found a clause that says if you back out now, we forfeit the deposit." That's $3,000, Mom. $3,000 I never agreed to spend. On a room I never agreed to occupy. With a contract designed to strip me of every financial decision I had left. I texted back. "I didn't ask you to put down a deposit." The dots appeared immediately, then disappeared. Then appeared again. Finally, "We'll talk about this at home." But I wasn't going home. Not yet. I was going to the post office. Because if they'd tried to access my bank accounts and forward my mail, what else had they already set in motion? I didn't go to the post office. Not yet. Something was pulling me home. A sick feeling in my stomach that told me I needed to see my own front door. The drive took 12 minutes. 12 minutes of my phone buzzing with texts I didn't read. 12 minutes of imagining what else Matthew and Ashley had done while I was too trusting to notice. When I pulled into my driveway, everything looked normal. My little blue house with the white trim, the garden I'd spent 3 weekends replanting, the porch swing where I drank coffee every morning. Except nothing was normal anymore. I unlocked the door and went straight to my laptop. The Ring app took forever to load. Or maybe my hands were just shaking again. When it finally opened, I scrolled back through the footage. 3 days ago, 4, 5, there. Wednesday afternoon at 2:17 p.m. Matthew's SUV in my driveway. I'd been at my book club. He knew I'd be gone. I watched him walk up to my front door, reach into the mailbox, and pull out a stack of envelopes. He flipped through them quickly, then tucked 3 into his jacket pocket. The rest he put back. But it was what happened next that made my blood run cold. Ashley appeared in the frame, looking over her shoulder like she was checking for neighbors. She said something to Matthew I couldn't hear. He nodded. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out her phone, holding it up to photograph something on my front door. My address, placard. The one with my house number in brass letters. "Why would you need a photo of my house number?" I whispered to the empty room. I kept scrolling. Thursday, Friday, Saturday morning. Each time, the same pattern. Matthew checking the mailbox. Ashley looking nervous. Once, just once, I caught audio. Ashley's voice, thin through the camera's microphone. She doesn't even check these anymore. She won't notice. She won't notice. Like I was already gone. Already invisible. I downloaded every video file, saving them to a folder on my desktop. Then I opened my filing cabinet and pulled out the stack of mail from the past 2 weeks. Bills, mostly. A statement from Medicare. A notice from my homeowner's insurance. And then, at the bottom, something that stopped me cold. An envelope from Oakwood HOA Management. Final notice stamped in red across the front. I ripped it open. "This is your third and final notice regarding unpaid HOA dues and the pending change of mailing address submitted on your behalf. If you wish to contest this change, please contact our office within 10 business days. Change of mailing address. Submitted on my behalf." I grabbed my phone and called the HOA office. It rang 4 times before someone picked up. Oakwood Management, this is Brenda. This is Amelia Patterson, 428 Maple Drive. I just got a notice about a mailing address change I never authorized. Papers shuffled on the other end. Let me pull up your account. Okay, yes, we received the change of address form on, looks like November 3rd. Submitted online through our resident portal. I don't use the resident portal. I don't even know my login. More shuffling. The request came from an email address. a.patterson.family@gmail.com. Is that yours? No. My email is amelia.patterson520. Brenda's voice shifted, suddenly careful. Mrs. Patterson, do you have family members who might have access to your account? Apparently I do. My voice was shaking. Can you tell me what address they tried to change it to? She read it off. Matthew and Ashley's address. The same one on the postal forwarding form. I need that reversed. Immediately, of course. I'll make a note in your file and send you a confirmation email. Mrs. Patterson, if you believe someone has access to your account without permission, you might want to consider reporting. I'm already on it. I hung up and opened my email. Searched for anything from Oakwood HOA. There it was. November 3rd. An email I'd never seen. Your mailing address has been successfully updated. I'd never opened it. Never even noticed it. Because I'd trusted that my mail would come to my house. That my son wouldn't steal my letters from my own mailbox. That I was safe in my own home. My phone rang. Matthew, I almost didn't answer. Then I remembered William Chune's advice. Document everything. I answered. What? Mom, you need to calm down. You're making this into something it's not. Really? What is it then? We're trying to help you. The mail forwarding, the bank access, it's all to make your life easier. You've been forgetting things. I haven't forgotten anything. Matthew, the HOA dues, I paid them. Late, but I paid them. You're not thinking clearly. Ashley and I have been picking up your mail because half the time you leave it sitting in the box for days. We're trying to keep you organized. I looked at the ring footage, still paused on my laptop screen. Ashley's face, checking over her shoulder. Matthew's hands, rifling through my mail like he owned it. You're stealing my mail, Matthew. That's a federal crime. Silence. Then his voice, colder. We're helping you. And if you can't see that, then maybe the people at Serenity Gardens were right. Maybe you do need someone to make decisions for you. The line went dead. I sat there, staring at my phone, feeling the rage build. Not the hot, explosive kind. The cold, clear kind that sharpens everything into focus. I opened a new document on my laptop and started typing. Every date, every video file, every piece of mail. The HOA notice, the bank request, the contract from the facility. William Chun had told me to document everything. So I would. I saved the file, printed 2 copies, and tucked one into the folder Elizabeth had given me. The other I put in an envelope, addressed to myself, and sealed it. Old trick my husband taught me: mail it to yourself. Don't open it, and the postmark proves the date you compiled it. A paper trail with a timestamp. My phone buzzed again. A notification from the Ring app. Someone was at my front door. I pulled up the live feed. Matthew, standing on my porch, his hand raised to knock. I didn't get up. I just watched him through the camera, waiting. He knocked twice. Called out, "Mom, I know you're home. Your car's in the driveway." I still didn't move. He tried the doorknob. Locked. He stepped back, ran his hand through his hair, looked around like he was deciding what to do next. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. The audio picked up his voice, faint but clear. "She's not answering. We might need to move faster than we thought." Move faster. Faster toward what? I didn't sleep that night. Every sound in the house made me jump. Every car passing outside made me check the Ring camera. By 6 a.m., I was dressed and waiting for the Social Security office to open. The building was downtown, Gray brick with narrow windows and a parking lot that always seemed too small. I got there at 7:45, 15 minutes before they unlocked the doors. There were already 8 people in line ahead of me. I took my place behind an older man with a cane and tried to calm my breathing. What if I was wrong? What if I was overreacting, seeing conspiracy where there was just clumsy concern? Then I remembered Matthew's voice through the Ring camera. We might need to move faster. The doors opened at 8 sharp. By 8:32, I was sitting across from a woman named Patricia. Her desk cluttered with file folders and a coffee mug that said "World's Okayest Employee." She had kind eyes and the exhausted look of someone who'd worked in government offices too long. "What can I help you with today, Mrs. Patterson? I need to check if anyone has tried to add themselves as an authorized representative on my account." Her fingers paused over her keyboard. "Has someone contacted you claiming to be from Social Security?" "No, it's my son. I think he might have. I need to know if he's tried to access my information." Patricia's expression shifted. I'd seen that look before. At the bank? At the assisted living facility? The look people get when they realize they're dealing with elder abuse and have to decide whether to get involved. She typed slowly, carefully, her eyes scanning whatever appeared on her screen. "Mrs. Patterson. There was a request filed online on November 7th to designate Matthew Patterson as your authorized representative." The air left my lungs. What does that mean? It means he'd be able to discuss your benefits, request information on your behalf, and, in some cases, make changes to your account. The request is currently pending because it requires your verification. We sent a letter to your home address on November 9th asking you to confirm. I never got that letter. Patricia's jaw tightened. The request form included a notation that you were, she read from the screen, experiencing confusion and memory issues that made independent financial management difficult. There it was again. Confusion. Memory issues. The same words they'd used at the bank. The same narrative being built, brick by brick. My son was constructing a story where I was incompetent, and he was doing it systematically, across every institution that mattered. "I'm not confused," I said quietly. "I'm being set up." Patricia pulled a form from her desk drawer. "I'm going to print out the complete request history and flag this account for potential fraud. No changes will be made without you physically appearing in this office with valid ID." She handed me a packet of papers. "This is everything. The original request, the verification letter we sent, and notes about the email account it came from." I looked at the email address, the same one from the HOA, pattersonfamily@gmail.com. "Can I ask you something?" Patricia's voice was gentle. "Do you have someone helping you with this? A lawyer, maybe?" I showed her William Chun's card. She nodded with what looked like relief. "Good. Because Mrs. Patterson, if someone is filing these requests without your knowledge, especially with false claims about your mental capacity, that's serious. That's not just fraud. That's elder abuse." I finished. "Yes." I took the papers with shaking hands, added them to my folder. The paper trail was becoming a tower. How many other places could he have done this? Medicare, insurance providers, any financial institutions, property records, medical facilities? She leaned forward. "If he has copies of your documents, your social security card, driver's license, birth certificate, he could be anywhere." My mind raced. Matthew had helped me organize my files after his father died. He'd said it was to make sure everything was easily accessible in case of emergency. I'd let him photograph everything. Every document, every account number, every password I'd written in my little notebook. I'd handed him the keys to my entire life. What do I do now? Patricia wrote something on a post-it note and slid it across the desk. "This is the fraud hotline. Report everything. And Mrs. Patterson? Change every password. Every single one. Today?" I walked out into the parking lot feeling like the ground was tilting under my feet. My phone rang. An unknown number. I almost didn't answer, then thought maybe it was William Chun calling from a different line. Hello? Mom? Not William. Benjamin, my younger son. The one who'd stayed quiet through all of this, who'd moved to Oregon 3 years ago and called maybe once a month. Matthew just called me. He's really worried about you. Is he? He said you're refusing help, that you're making bad decisions. Mom, if you're having trouble managing things, there's no shame. And did he tell you he tried to access my Social Security benefits? Silence. Did he tell you he's been stealing my mail? That he tried to get control of my bank accounts? That he forged address changes with my HOA in the post office? Mom, that's not Matthew. Wouldn't check your email, Benjamin. I'm sending you proof, all of it. Then you tell me who's making bad decisions. I hung up. My hands were steadier now. The rage was still there, cold and clear, but underneath it was something else. Determination. Clarity. William Chun answered on the first ring. Mrs. Patterson. They tried to access my Social Security. I have the documentation. And there's something else. I need to know if they've contacted my doctor. Why would they? He stopped. Medical power of attorney. Can they do that? Not without your signature. But they could try to establish a pattern of incompetence. Get a doctor to document concerns. Mrs. Patterson, when was your last medical appointment? 2 months ago. Annual checkup. Dr. Morrison? Everything was fine. I want you to call that office right now. Ask if anyone has requested your medical records or tried to schedule appointments on your behalf. I was already dialing. The receptionist recognized my voice immediately. Mrs. Patterson? How are you? I need to ask you something important. Has anyone from my family called asking about my records? Papers shuffled. Computer keys clicked. Actually, yes. Your daughter-in-law called last week asking about scheduling a cognitive assessment. She said she was concerned about memory issues. The parking lot blurred. Did you schedule anything? No. We told her we'd need to speak with you directly first. Dr. Morrison made a note that any future appointments should be confirmed with you personally. Thank God for Dr. Morrison. Can you put that in writing? The note about confirming appointments? Of course. I'll have it ready this afternoon. I leaned against my car, staring at the Social Security office behind me. This wasn't just Matthew being overly protective. This was coordinated, strategic. They were building a case, piece by piece, to declare me incompetent. And they'd almost succeeded. My phone buzzed. A text from Matthew. We need to settle this. 48 hours, Mom. Then I'm filing for guardianship. Guardianship. The final piece. If a judge declared me incompetent, Matthew would control everything. My house, my money, my decisions, my life. But I wasn't incompetent. And I had proof. 48 hours? That's all Matthew had given me? 48 hours to prove I wasn't the confused old woman he was painting me to be? I called William Chun from my car. He's threatening guardianship. Then we prove capacity. Today. His voice was steady. No panic. Can you get to your doctor this afternoon? I'll make it happen. Dr. Morrison's office squeezed me in at 3:30. I spent the time between gathering every piece of paper. I had bank statements, I'd balanced myself, bills I'd paid on time, the folder that was now stuffed with evidence of Matthew's scheme. By the time I walked into that examination room, I had proof of competence and proof of betrayal. And I wasn't sure which one mattered more. Dr. Morrison was in her 50s, gray hair pulled back, reading glasses on a chain. She'd been my doctor for 12 years. She knew me. Amelia, what's going on? Sarah said this was urgent. I told her everything. The contract, the bank, the Social Security office, the threat. She listened without interrupting, her expression darkening with each detail. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she pulled out a form. We're doing a full cognitive assessment. Right now. And I'm documenting every bit of it. The next 40 minutes were the strangest of my life. She asked me to count backward from 100 by sevens. Draw a clock showing 3:15. Remember 3 words and repeat them 5 minutes later. Name the current president, the date, the season. Solve simple math problems. Follow multi-step instructions. I did it all. Every single task. My mind was sharp, clearer than it had been in weeks, sharpened by anger and fear into something precise. Dr. Morrison made notes, her pen scratching across paper. Amelia, your cognitive function is completely normal. Better than normal for your age. Honestly. She looked up at me. What your son is doing this isn't caregiving. This is control. Can you write that down? I'm writing a formal letter right now. It'll state that you have full decision-making capacity, that there are no signs of dementia or cognitive impairment, and that you're competent to manage your own affairs. She signed it, stamped it with the practice seal, and made 3 copies. 1 for you, 1 for your attorney, 1 for your records. If your son tries to claim otherwise, this is your defense. I held the letter like it was made of gold. Because maybe it was. Thank you. One more thing. She pulled out her prescription pad and wrote something, tore it off, handed it to me. That's the name of a geriatric psychiatrist. If Matthew escalates this, having a specialist evaluation on record will help. Dr. Patel is excellent. Tell her I sent you. I left with the letters in my folder and a knot of relief in my chest. But when I got to my car, there were 3 missed calls, all from Matthew, and 1 voicemail. His voice was tight, controlled. Mom, I spoke with the insurance company today. They're concerned about some gaps in your coverage. I'm trying to help you sort it out, but they need authorization to speak with me. If you don't call them back by end of business, there could be problems with your Medicare supplement. The number is, I stopped the message, opened my insurance app. Everything was current. Everything was paid. There were no gaps. He was lying, creating urgency, trying to panic me into giving him access. I called the insurance company directly, waited through the hold music, got transferred twice, finally reached someone in member services. This is Amelia Patterson. I need to know if anyone has called about my account today. Typing sounds. Yes, Mrs. Patterson. We received a call this morning from someone claiming to be your son. He said he was helping you manage your benefits and needed to discuss your coverage. What did you tell him? We can't discuss account details without your authorization. We asked him to have you call and provide verbal consent for him to be added as an authorized contact. Don't add him, and I need a record of that call. Who called, what they asked for, everything. Of course. I'll email you the call log within the hour. I hung up and checked the time. 4:40. Gavin Matthews' deadline was tomorrow at 4:48. 24 hours. William Chung called. Did you get the letter from Dr. Morrison? Yes. It's solid. Good. Now I need you to do something that's going to be hard. I need you to go to the county clerk's office and check the property records for your house. My stomach dropped. Why? Because if they're planning guardianship, they might already be positioning to liquidate assets. And your house is your biggest asset. They wouldn't, Mrs. Patterson. They've already tried to access your bank accounts, your Social Security, your medical records, and your insurance. They've stolen your mail and forged address changes. I need you to assume they've tried everything. The county clerk's office closed at 5. I had 30 minutes. I drove faster than I should have, parked in a loading zone, ran into the building just as a clerk was turning the sign to closed. Please, I need to check property records. It's an emergency. She looked at me, gray-haired woman, out of breath, clutching a folder, and something in her face softened. What's the address? I gave it to her. She typed, clicked, scrolled, then stopped. Mrs. Patterson, there was a title search requested on your property last Wednesday. Requested by, she squinted at the screen, Matthew Patterson. Listed as primary heir. The floor tilted. What does that mean? Usually it means someone is preparing to sell. or refinance, or establish ownership claim. She printed the record, highlighted the date and Matthew's name. Has your house been in probate recently? No. My husband died 6 years ago. The house transferred to me completely. It's mine. She handed me the paper. Then, this is unusual. You might want to talk to a real estate attorney. I took the paper, added it to the folder. The paper trail was now a mountain. In my car, I called William. They requested a title search. Matthew's positioning to take my house. That's what I was afraid of. Tomorrow morning, first thing, we're filing a protective order. No property transfers, no financial changes, nothing without court approval. And Amelia, I think it's time we involved Adult Protective Services. Will that make it worse? It'll make it official. And right now, official is what you need. I drove home in the dark. The house I'd lived in for 32 years. The house where I'd raised my children and buried my husband. The house that was supposed to be mine until I decided otherwise. Matthew was trying to take it. My phone buzzed. A text from Ashley. We're trying to protect you. Why are you making this so difficult? I didn't respond. I just sat in my driveway, looking at my front door through the Ring camera on my phone, and thought about tomorrow. About Adult Protective Services. About protective orders. About my son, who I'd loved and raised and trusted, who was now treating me like an obstacle instead of a person. The letter from Dr. Morrison was on the passenger seat. Proof that I was competent. Proof that I could fight back. Tomorrow, I would. The county recorder's office opened at 8. I was there at 7:45, coffee in hand, watching the door like my life depended on it. Because maybe it did. A woman in her 30s unlocked the glass doors right on time. I was the first one through. I need to see all recent activity on my property deed, I said, sliding my driver's license across the counter. She typed the address into her system. Her eyebrows went up slightly. There's been quite a bit of activity here recently. My pulse hammered. Show me. She turned the monitor so I could see. There were 3 entries in the past 2 weeks. The title search Matthew had requested. A property valuation inquiry. And something else? Dated just 5 days ago, a preliminary assessment request filed by something called Heritage Financial Solutions. What's that? I pointed at the screen. Looks like a company that specializes in senior asset liquidation. They do property valuations for families transitioning elderly relatives into care facilities. She scrolled down. The request came through an intermediary email. Let me pull up the details. She clicked through several screens, then printed out 2 pages and handed them to me. There was the email address again. a.patterson.family@gmail.com. And a note. Property assessment needed for pending assisted living placement. Owner consent on file. I never gave consent, I said. The woman's expression changed. I'd seen that look too many times now the moment someone realizes they're looking at something wrong. Mrs. Patterson, this is the 3rd time this week I've seen something like this. Families filing paperwork on behalf of parents who don't know what's happening. She lowered her voice. You should talk to someone about elder financial abuse. This pattern, it's textbook. I took the papers, my hand steadier than I expected. I'm already building a case. Good. She wrote something on a post-it note. This is my supervisor's direct line. If you need official statements about these filings, call her. We keep records of who requests what and when. I added the note to my folder. The paper trail was becoming evidence. Outside, I called William Chun before I even got to my car. They hired a company to assess my house. Heritage Financial Solutions. They're preparing to sell. I was afraid of that. I could hear him typing. Okay, here's what happens now. We file an emergency injunction blocking any property transfers or financial transactions related to your assets. I can have it ready by noon. But Amelia, I need you to understand. Once we file this, there's no going back. Quietly. This becomes a legal battle. I don't want quiet anymore. I want my house protected. Then meet me at my office at 11. Bring everything you have. I drove to William's office through morning traffic. The folder on my passenger seat thick with documents now. Bank records. Social Security denials. Dr. Morrison's letter. Ring camera footage, screenshots. The title search. The valuation request. Every piece of Matthew's plan, documented and dated. William's office was small but organized. Law books lining one wall, his desk covered in neat stacks of files. He was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with sharp eyes and an expression that said he'd seen too many cases like mine. He went through my folder page by page, making notes. When he got to the Heritage Financial Solutions request, he stopped. This is good. This shows intent. They weren't just planning, they were actively moving forward. Can we stop them? We can freeze everything. No sales, no transfers, no changes to ownership or beneficiaries. But I need to ask you something difficult. If we involve Adult Protective Services, there will be an investigation. Your son will be questioned. Your family will know you're fighting back. Are you ready for that? I thought about Matthew's text. 48 hours. The threat of guardianship hanging over me like a blade. If I don't fight back, I lose everything anyway. Then we fight. He pulled out a form, started filling it in with quick, confident strokes. I'm filing this petition with the probate court today. It requests an emergency protective order preventing any changes to your property, accounts, or legal status without court approval. It'll cite the documented attempts at financial manipulation and the false claims about your cognitive capacity. How long until it's active? If the judge sees urgency and with this evidence, they should. We could have a temporary order by tomorrow morning. Full hearing within 2 weeks. My phone buzzed. Matthew? I showed William the screen. Don't answer, he said. Not yet. Let me get this filed first. Once the court issues the order, he'll be notified officially. Until then, the less he knows about our timeline, the better. I nodded, my throat tight. This was my son. The boy I'd raised, taught to ride a bike, helped through college. And now I was getting court orders to protect myself from him. William must have seen something in my face. Mrs. Patterson, I know this is hard. But what he's doing, it's not love. It's control. And you have every right to defend yourself. I left his office at noon with copies of the petition and instructions to stay alert. William said he'd call as soon as the judge reviewed the paperwork. In the meantime, I was supposed to go home, lock my doors, and document anything else unusual. But I didn't go home. I went to the bank instead. Derek, the branch manager, looked up when I walked in. Mrs. Patterson, how are you holding up? I need to know if there have been any other attempts to access my accounts. Anything since we last talked? He pulled up my profile, his eyes scanning. Then he frowned. There was a phone call yesterday. Someone claiming to be calling from your attorney's office, asking about account balances and recent transactions. What did you tell them? Nothing. We verified it wasn't a legitimate legal inquiry. But Mrs. Patterson, whoever called, knew your account numbers. Not just the checking account, Sure Savings, your CD, even your safe deposit box number. Ice ran down my spine. How would they know that? Do you keep that information written down anywhere? A notebook, maybe? I did. A small blue notebook in my desk drawer at home. The one Matthew had photographed when he was helping me organize after his father died. Yes. You need to change those accounts. New numbers, new access codes, everything. Today, if possible. We spent the next hour setting up new accounts and transferring everything over. Derek printed out letters documenting the fraud attempts and the account changes. More paper for my folder. More proof. When I finally got home, it was almost 3. My phone had 6 missed calls from Matthew and 2 from Ashley. There was also a voicemail from a number I didn't recognize. I played it. A man's voice, professional and smooth. Mrs. Patterson, this is James Crawford from Heritage Financial Solutions. We're processing the property assessment your family requested. and we'd like to schedule a walkthrough of your home this week. Please call us back at your earliest convenience to arrange a time. Our number is," I deleted the message and immediately called William. "They're trying to schedule a walkthrough of my house. Heritage Financial Solutions just left a voicemail. Don't respond. Don't let anyone in. And Amelia, check your property. Make sure Matthew doesn't have a key." I hung up and went to my front door. Checked the lock. Then I remembered I'd given Matthew a spare key years ago, for emergencies. In case I ever locked myself out. In case I ever needed help. The lock was fine. But that didn't mean he hadn't made copies. I called a locksmith. He could come tomorrow morning. First thing, my phone rang again. This time, I answered. "What? Matthew? Mom, you're being unreasonable. I just got a call from some attorney's office saying you're filing complaints against me. Against your own son. You tried to sell my house. I'm trying to help you transition. You tried to access my bank accounts, my social security, my medical records. You stole my mail and forged my signature. That's not help, Matthew. That's theft." Silence. Then, quieter, angrier. "Everything I did was to protect you. You're not capable of making these decisions anymore, and you're too stubborn to see it. I have a letter from my doctor saying I'm fully competent. Want to see it?" The silence stretched longer this time. When he spoke again, his voice was cold. "You're making a mistake. We'll see what the judge says." He hung up. I sat in my kitchen, looking at the folder that now held my entire defense, and wondered when exactly my son had stopped seeing me as his mother and started seeing me as an asset to be managed. Tomorrow, the locksmith would come. Tomorrow, William's petition would hopefully be approved. Tomorrow, I'd have legal protection. But tonight, I was still just a mother whose son wanted to erase her. The locksmith finished at 9:30. New locks, new keys. Only one copy, and it was on my key. For the first time in 3 days, I felt like my house was actually mine again. William called at 10. The judge approved the temporary protective order. It's active as of this morning. No property transfers, no financial changes, nothing without court approval. Matthew's been notified. I sat down hard on my couch. What happens now? Now we build the case? I need witness statements. Anyone who saw the pressure tactics, the attempts at manipulation? Do you think Elizabeth from the assisted living facility would be willing to talk? I thought about her slipping me that contract copy, whispering that it didn't look standard. I think she would. Call her, see if she'll meet with us. Elizabeth agreed to meet at a coffee shop near her work. She arrived wearing jeans and a cardigan, looking nervous. William introduced himself, shook her hand, and pulled out a legal pad. "Elizabeth, I need you to tell me exactly what you witnessed the day Amelia came to Serenity Gardens." She glanced at me, then back at William. "I've worked in senior care for 12 years. I know what normal admissions look like. This wasn't normal." "How so?" The son and daughter-in-law were answering all the questions. Mrs. Patterson would try to speak, and they'd talk over her. When I asked her directly if she wanted to tour the facility, the son said, "She's excited. She's just overwhelmed." But she didn't look excited. She looked confused. William wrote quickly, "What about the paperwork?" That's the part that bothered me most. Standard admission is maybe 5, 6 pages. This was over 20. And buried in there were clauses about financial management and mail forwarding that I've never seen in a residency agreement before. She paused. The son kept saying, "She's old. She won't notice the details." There it was, on record, from a professional witness. He said that specifically. She won't notice. Yes. And when Mrs. Patterson started reading through the contract, he got agitated. Said they were running out of time, that they'd lose the deposit. But we hadn't even discussed deposits yet. William looked up. "Would you be willing to put this in a formal statement?" Elizabeth nodded. "I've already talked to my supervisor. We pulled the file. There's an internal email from the son sent 3 days before the visit, asking us to expedite the admission process and have all paperwork ready to sign immediately. He specifically requested we prepare documents before his mother's attorney could review them. My stomach turned. Matthew had planned it. Every detail. Get me in. Get me overwhelmed. Get me to sign before I could think. Do you still have that email? William asked. Elizabeth pulled out her phone, opened her email app, and turned it toward us. There it was. Matthew's words in black and white. Please have everything ready to sign. We need to move quickly before outside parties complicate the process. Outside parties. He meant lawyers. He meant anyone who might protect me. William photographed the email. This is extremely helpful. Thank you. After Elizabeth left, William and I sat in the coffee shop while he organized his notes. This is solid testimony. A professional with no personal stake, describing a clear pattern of coercion. Combined with the financial attempts, the forged documents, the false claims to institutions, we have a strong case. What about Adult Protective Services? You said we should involve them. I scheduled a meeting for tomorrow afternoon. They'll want to hear everything, see all the documentation. But Amelia, I need to prepare you. When APS gets involved, things move fast. There will be interviews, investigations. Your son will be questioned officially. Good. My phone buzzed. A text from Ashley. Can we please talk? Just the two of us? I think there's been a misunderstanding. I showed William. He frowned. Don't meet her alone. If you respond at all, tell her any conversation needs to include me. I typed. All communication goes through my attorney now. His number is on the court documents you received. A response came immediately. This doesn't have to be a legal battle. We can work this out privately. Just withdraw the court order and we'll drop everything. Drop everything, including their attempt to control my finances, their forged documents, their plan to sell my house. I didn't respond. William gathered his papers. The hearing is scheduled for next Wednesday. Between now and then, document everything. Every call, every text, every attempt at contact. And Amelia, don't let them make you feel guilty. What they did was wrong. The law is on your side. I drove home feeling something I hadn't felt in days. Not quite relief, not quite victory, but something close to solid ground under my feet. The Ring camera notification popped up on my phone as I pulled into my driveway. Someone at my door. I checked the live feed. Matthew. Again. But this time he wasn't alone. He had someone with him, a man in a suit, carrying a briefcase. I stayed in my car and called William. Matthew's at my door with someone. Looks like a lawyer. Don't open the door. Don't engage. If he doesn't leave, call the police. I watched through the camera as Matthew knocked, waited, knocked again. The man in the suit said something I couldn't hear. Matthew shook his head, knocked harder. Then my phone rang. Matthew? I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. Mom, I have someone here who wants to explain the legal situation to you. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Just open the door and let's talk like adults. Like adults. As if I was the child. As if I was the one being unreasonable. I texted back, leave my property. You've been served with a protective order. Any further contact is harassment. The man in the suit checked his phone, showed Matthew the screen. Matthew's face went red. He said something sharp, gestured angrily at my door, then turned and walked back to his car. The man in the suit lingered a moment longer, looking up at the Ring camera like he knew I was watching. Then he followed Matthew. I sat in my driveway until they drove away. Then I went inside, locked my new locks, and added a note to my documentation file. Matthew attempted contact with legal representative despite court order. Date, time, video evidence available. The paper trail was becoming a wall, and I was building it brick by brick. The app's investigator's name was Carol Martinez. She had kind eyes and a folder already thick with notes. William and I sat across from her in a conference room at the county services building. My evidence folder rested on the table between us. Mrs. Patterson, tell me what's been happening. I walked her through everything. The assisted living contract, the bank fraud attempts, the Social Security claim, the title search, the stolen mail. Carol's pen moved steadily across her notepad. How long has this been going on? I discovered it last week. But the documents show Matthew planned this for at least a month, and he claimed you're cognitively impaired. To everyone. The bank, Social Security, insurance, the facility. I handed her Dr. Morrison's letter. My doctor says otherwise. Carol read it, made a copy. This contradicts his entire narrative. That's important. She looked up. Mrs. Patterson, what you're describing is textbook elder financial abuse. Adult children see assets as inheritance and get impatient. William showed her the email from Elizabeth Matthew requesting expedited processing before attorneys could review. Carol photographed it, added notes. I'm opening a formal investigation. I'll contact your son, his wife, and review all institutional records. She paused. This fits the legal definition of financial exploitation, but I need to warn you when I contact Matthew, he'll know this escalated. He may push back hard. He already has. Showed up at my house with a lawyer yesterday. Did you document it? I showed her the ring footage. Matthew pounding on my door, the lawyer beside him, both ignoring the protective order. Send me that. That's harassment. Carol handed me her card. If he contacts you again, don't engage. Document and call me immediately. After the meeting, William and I sat in his car. I felt hollowed out. What happens now? Carol interviews Matthew within 48 hours. She'll compile findings and can recommend criminal charges if warranted. Criminal charges against my son? Mail fraud? Identity theft? Attempted exploitation? These are serious crimes. Amelia, my phone buzzed. Email from Ashley. Subject, please. The message was short. We were wrong. We got scared about your future and handled it badly. Can we fix this without destroying our family? I'm begging you. William read it over my shoulder. If they're genuinely sorry, they'll prove it with actions. They'll withdraw claims, return documents, accept the order. If this is manipulation, they'll keep pressing. I forwarded it to Carol with a note about documenting contact. Her reply came fast. Good. Don't respond. I'll address it in my interview. That evening, I spread everything across my kitchen table. Bank statements, court papers, camera footage, medical letters, witness statements. The complete map of my son's betrayal. Ashley's words echoed. Can we fix this without destroying our family? But they'd destroyed it first. When Matthew saw me as an obstacle, when they forged documents and stole mail, when they looked at my house and saw money instead of home, I wasn't destroying anything. I was refusing to vanish. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered, remembering Carol's instruction to document. Mrs. Patterson, James Crawford from Heritage Financial Solutions. We haven't heard back about your property assessment. Your son said this was urgent. I kept my voice level. Mr. Crawford, I never authorized an assessment. My property is under court protective order. Any access attempt will be reported to Adult Protective Services and law enforcement. Long pause. I see. We weren't informed of legal issues. I'll close this request. I hung up, left William a voicemail, added it to my file. The walls were closing in on Matthew. Every lie, every institution, every forged signature, it was all surfacing. And he had nowhere left to hide. Carol called 2 days later. I've completed the initial interviews. We need to talk. I met her at a diner near my house. She ordered coffee, black, and spread papers across the table between us. I interviewed your son yesterday. And Mrs. Patterson? His story doesn't match the evidence. She tapped the first document. He claims he was trying to help you manage bills you kept forgetting. But the bank shows no late payments in 3 years. I told you I wasn't forgetting things. I know. I also contacted Social Security. They confirmed the fraudulent representative request and flagged his account. Same with your insurance company. They're cooperating fully with the investigation. She pulled out another paper. Then there's Serenity Gardens. After Elizabeth's statement, they reviewed their procedures. Turns out, Matthew contacted them 5 times before bringing you in, specifically requesting contracts that included financial authority clauses. The facility suspended his application and reported the incident. My chest tightened. They reported it. State licensing board takes this seriously. Facilities can't be used as tools for financial abuse. Carol's expression softened. Your son made a mistake thinking these institutions wouldn't verify his claims. They did, and everything he told them was false. What about Ashley? She admitted to forwarding your mail and accessing your HOA account. Said Matthew told her it was legal because you'd agreed to it. She seemed genuinely surprised when I showed her you'd filed complaints. I thought about Ashley's email. Maybe she really didn't understand what Matthew was doing. Or maybe she just didn't want to. What happens now? Carol closed her folder. The bank is filing a fraud report with law enforcement. Social Security already flagged his Social Security number for suspicious activity. The post office is investigating mail theft. That's federal. And I'm recommending the DA review this for criminal prosecution. The word hung in the air. Criminal. How long until they decide? Could be weeks. Could be months. But Mrs. Patterson, you should know your son hired an attorney. He's threatening to countersue for defamation and emotional distress. My stomach dropped. Can he do that? He can try. But he'd have to prove you made false statements. And everything you reported is documented and true. She pushed a paper across the table. This came from the assisted living facility. Official statement confirming Elizabeth's account. Including the quote about you being too old to notice. There it was. In writing. My son's words, preserved forever in an official record. There's one more thing. Carol hesitated. Your younger son, Benjamin, called me. He wants to talk to you. About what? He wouldn't say. Just asked for your attorney's contact information. I gave him William Chun's number. I drove home in silence, my mind spinning. Benjamin hadn't called me directly since this started. What could he possibly want now? William called that afternoon. Benjamin reached out. He wants to give a statement. Supporting Matthew? No. Supporting you. He said Matthew called him 2 weeks ago, asking him to co-sign on something related to your care. Benjamin refused and told Matthew to back off. He wants that conversation on record. Relief and grief hit me simultaneously. At least one of my sons was still on my side. When can he give the statement? Tomorrow, if you're comfortable with it. He's flying in from Oregon. The next day, Benjamin showed up at William's office, looking exhausted. He hugged me carefully, like I might break. Mom, I'm so sorry. I should have called you the second Matthew contacted me. We sat in William's conference room while Benjamin told his story. Matthew had called asking him to co-sign on guardianship paperwork, claiming I was declining rapidly and needed full-time care. I told him that was insane, Benjamin said. You sounded fine every time we talked. But he kept pushing, saying I was in denial, that you were good at hiding it. When I refused, he got angry, said I was abandoning the family. William took notes. Did he specify what he wanted guardianship for? Financial and medical decisions? He sent me paperwork to review. I showed it to my wife, and she said it looked like a power grab. That's when I realized something was really wrong. Benjamin pulled out his phone, showed us text messages from Matthew. Dozens of them, escalating from concern to anger to threats. If you won't help Mom, you don't get a say in what happens to her assets. Assets. Not Mom. Assets. I should have warned you sooner, Benjamin said quietly. I just didn't think he'd actually go through with it. You're helping now, I said. That matters. After Benjamin left, William organized the new evidence. Text messages proving Matthew tried to recruit Benjamin. Proof that this wasn't about Corinne, was about control and money. This strengthens everything, William said. Benjamin's testimony shows a pattern. Matthew wasn't worried about your well-being. He was worried about inheritance. I don't want you to miss what happens next. Subscribe so you can find stories like this again. That evening, I got a call from Derek at the bank. Mrs. Patterson wanted to let you know the fraud investigation closed today. The bank is pressing charges for attempted identity theft and false representation. The police report has been filed. What does that mean for Matthew? He'll likely receive a summons within the week. This is serious, Mrs. Patterson. Federal banking fraud carries significant penalties. I thanked him and hung up, feeling numb. My son was about to be charged with crimes. Real crimes with real consequences. My phone buzzed. Text from Matthew. I hope you're happy. You've destroyed this family. I stared at those words for a long time. Then I typed back, I didn't destroy anything. I just refused to disappear. His response came immediately. We'll see what the judge says. I already knew what the judge would say. Because I had the truth, documented and witnessed, and impossible to deny. Matthew had built his case on lies. And lies always collapse eventually. The mediation was Carol's idea. Not required, but recommended. A chance to resolve things without dragging everyone through court. Matthew and Ashley sat on one side of the conference table with their attorney. William and I sat on the other. Carol Martinez presided from the head, a mediator from the county beside her. The mediator opened with standard language about respect and resolution. Then he turned to Matthew. Mr. Patterson, you requested this mediation. Would you like to begin? Matthew cleared his throat. He looked older somehow, tired. I want to say that everything I did because I was worried about my mother. She's been declining. Stop. I kept my voice level. I haven't been declining. Dr. Morrison confirmed that. You lied to institutions to gain control of my assets. His attorney jumped in. Mrs. Patterson? My client acted out of genuine concern. William cut him off. Let's review the evidence. He spread documents across the table. Bank fraud attempts, Social Security fraud, forged address changes, stolen mail, property assessment requests. All documented. All illegal. Carol added her folder. My investigation found no evidence of cognitive decline. What I found was systematic financial exploitation. Matthew's face reddened. I was trying to protect her. The house is too much for her to maintain. The bills were piling up. What bills? I pulled out my bank statements. Every payment on time for 3 years. What you saw as decline was one late HOA payment. One. You don't understand the pressure. The pressure of what? Waiting for your inheritance? The words came out sharper than I intended, but I didn't take them back. Ashley spoke for the first time. Her voice small. We have debt. Matthew's business is struggling. We thought if you moved to assisted living, we could help manage things and sell my house to cover your problems. I finished. Silence fell over the room. Ashley looked down at her hands. Matthew's attorney whispered something to him. The mediator spoke carefully. It seems we're looking at a situation where financial pressure led to inappropriate actions. The question is whether this can be resolved without criminal prosecution. Carol leaned forward. That depends on accountability. Mr. Patterson, do you understand that what you did was illegal? Matthew's jaw worked. Finally, quietly. Yes. Are you willing to formally withdraw all access requests? Return any documents you obtained? And sign an agreement never to claim authority over your mother's affairs again. His attorney started to object, but Matthew held up a hand. Yes, I'll sign. And Mrs. Patterson, the mediator turned to me. Are you willing to accept this resolution? Understanding that the criminal investigations may continue independently? I looked at my son, the boy I'd raised, who I'd taught to ride a bike and helped through college. who'd looked at my life and seen dollar signs instead of a person. I want it in writing. Everything. And I want a formal apology not to me, but to every institution you lied to. The bank, Social Security, the facility, everyone. Matthew nodded slowly. Okay. The agreement took 2 hours to draft. Matthew would withdraw all fraudulent claims, return copies of my documents, sign a binding agreement that he had no authority over my financial, medical, or legal affairs. Ashley would do the same. They would submit written apologies to every institution, admitting the false claims. The assisted living facility would be notified officially that the application was fraudulent. And most importantly, I would establish a limited power of attorney with my attorney as backup, properly notarized and registered, for genuine future need but on my terms, not theirs. When everything was signed, notarized, and filed, Matthew stood. He looked at me across the table, and for a moment I saw something that might have been remorse. Mom, I'm sorry. I really am. I didn't stand. Sorry isn't enough, Matthew. You tried to erase me. You told people I was incompetent, that I didn't matter. You treated me like I was already gone. I know. And I don't know how to fix it. You can't. Not right now. I took a breath. Maybe someday we can rebuild something. But it won't be what it was. Because I know now what you're capable of. He nodded once, then left with Ashley and their attorney. The door closed quietly behind them. Carol gathered her papers. The bank and Social Security investigations will continue regardless of this agreement. He may still face charges. Good, I said. And I meant it. William walked me to my car. How do you feel? Tired? Relieved? Angry? Sad? I looked up at the gray sky. All of it at once. That's normal. You protected yourself. You set boundaries. Those are victories. I drove home to my house, with my locks and my name on the deed and my mail in my mailbox. The house Matthew had tried to take, that I'd fought to keep. Inside, I made tea and sat at my kitchen table. Spread across it were all the documents, all the evidence, all the proof that I wasn't confused or incompetent or disposable. I thought about everything that had happened. The cold open at Serenity Gardens when I'd almost signed away my life, Elizabeth slipping me that contract, the bank manager who'd believed me, Dr. Morrison's letter, Benjamin flying in to support me, Carol Martinez taking me seriously. I'd been taught my whole life to trust family, to keep problems private, to not make waves. But sometimes making waves is the only way to keep from drowning. My phone buzzed. A text from Benjamin. How did it go? I typed back. I won. I'm staying in my house. I'm keeping my life. His response. Good. That's how it should be. Love you, Mom. I set the phone down and looked around my kitchen. The same kitchen where I'd made breakfast for my boys every morning, where I'd celebrated holidays and birthdays and ordinary Tuesdays, where I'd grieved my husband and built my life alone and refused to be erased. Caring isn't control. Care is listening, asking, respecting. What Matthew did wasn't care. It was theft, dressed up as concern, and I didn't let him get away with it. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and if you've ever lived through something like this. You're not alone.